So when we're talking about the concept of equivalent fractions, we mean that we have, for example, one whole, and I can split that different ways, okay? So for example, one whole is equivalent to 2 halves. It's also equivalent to 3/3, okay? When we're talking about equivalent fractions, we mean that we can split something, we can split a whole into multiple parts and still represent the same total amount. Okay, so if we pretend like this is a cake and I've got one whole cake, if I split the cake into 2 equal pieces or 2 halves, I didn't change the overall amount of cake I have. Same thing if I split it into 3 pieces, okay, or 3/3. I don't change that overall amount. These fractions are all equivalent to each other. So how do I come up with equivalent fractions? So there are several different methods. Today, we're going to be using models. So I have my model here. You can follow the link that I put on Canvas to use your own fraction tiles, or you could print some fraction tiles at home. Other ways to model fractions are drawing pictures, using pictures in your textbook or on Canvas, or using number lines. So for right now, I'm just going to show you these manipulatives. Okay, so I have a new fraction here. I have 1/4. So this means that I'm talking about a whole that is split into 4 parts. So if I'm using these numberless fraction tiles here, okay, you see these 4 yellow pieces, and I'm just talking about 1/4 right now. So I want to come up with some equivalent fractions for 1/4. I can use fraction tiles to create these equivalents. So here I have 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. All right. And I found that by matching my fraction tiles until I had a match. You can also think about it mathematically. So let's look back here. This is my 1/4. 2/8 are equivalent to 1/4 because if we think back to our original whole, okay, and we think back to our fourths, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So if we think back to these 4, if I split this model directly in half, just like this, then I would be making 8 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because each time I split a 1/4, I'm making 2/8, okay? So that's why these are equivalent, okay? So I have 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. Now let's look at one more equivalent that I can make with my tiles here. Okay. Here I've got 3/12. So we're just looking at the 12ths here. I can see that if I take each of my 1/4 and I split it into 3 pieces this time, instead of just 2, that means I'm going to be splitting my model into 12 pieces. So I don't have 12ths with my other tiles, so we'll just have to imagine it by looking at this, okay? Also, we're going to be practicing using multiplication next week to model equivalent fractions, but you can start to see the relationship here. I have 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8 is equivalent to 3/12. So you can start to look at patterns here and start to think about how that multiplication strategy would work.